I welcome you all to this webinar for Introduction to Android Development. A very good evening to everyone who is watching this event live. I hope you are excited to learn something new today. Before we jump into today's topics, I would like to let you know that I have uploaded a video last week for installation of Android Studio. Don't forget to check that out. It will help you set up the environment if you haven't already. I also hope that many of you are done setting up our playground. Before we start our first application, I would like to give you some overview of the technology. In other words, some theory on Android. I know theory sessions are boring, and I also know that you hate them as much as I do. But don't worry, I promise I won't make this session boring for you. It's gonna be short and then we will jump to the practical session. This is our agenda for today. We will start with some theory, then we will discuss some requirements and tools you'll need to run apps. Later, I will discuss our final product's layout, and at last I will work on the app from the scratch and explain few things about the app. Now let's begin with some theory. Android is an operating system on which developers can develop applications. It's Linux based operating system and one can develop apps for free. In other words, it's an open source operating system. So if you like, you can create your own version of Android or customize it as you please. There are so many things and benefits I can tell about Android, but let's not discuss everything at this moment, as that will only take some time and will make everyone bored, as that's theory part. Now it's a time we discuss some requirements to develop Android applications. Like every development platform, we have IDE, that stands for Integrated Development Environment, to make apps. Along with IDE, we also need a language to provide instructions for our application. Google officially provides Android Studio as IDE and it supports two languages. Before 2014, developers used to develop apps on Eclipse. Back then, setting up the environment was quite difficult as compared to today's straightforward process. Like I said, there are two languages supported, Java and Kotlin. Recently, Kotlin is getting popular among major companies and developers, but if you are just getting started with Android and know some basic of Java, then I would suggest you learn Android with Java and then work with Kotlin. There is no doubt Kotlin is fun to work with and it makes the life of a developer much better with its unique features like compact syntax structure, single type system, null safety, and many more. Since this is an introduction, I am going to use Java. Plus, I assume many of you know how to work with Java and its syntax. In conclusion, you can use Java or Kotlin to develop Android application using IDE called Android Studio. Apart from these two things, you also need some basic knowledge of XML. No need to be scared of it because it's similar to HTML. Now the boring part is over. Let's discuss our app's layout. For this experiment, I will be making a basic calculator app which will have 4 buttons, 4 buttons, 2 text boxes and 2 screens. In Android's term, screens are known as activities. Like I said, we have 2 screens. In first one, we are going to take input from the user using text box. It's a UI element that helps us to take input from the user, but in Android's term, we call it edit text. 4 buttons are also placed in the same screen. This will help us to perform an action on the given input. As soon as we click on the button, we want the answer for the corresponding operation to be displayed on second activity. In conclusion, we are taking 2 numbers from the first activity, and then let's assume user clicks on the addition button and the answer will be displayed on the second activity. Now that we have defined our goal, we can start working on making our app. To begin with, we need to start the Android Studio. It may take few moments to load the software depending on your computer's configuration. Once we are greeted with a welcome screen, we have to create a new project and do some configuration for our application. As soon as we click on this create new project button, we are being asked to select a template for our project. Templates are here to jumpstart our development process. Since we are just trying for the first time, I suggest using empty activity, as this gives us so many options for customizations if we want to do it at later stage. Once the template is selected, we can now proceed with next step by clicking on this next button. On this screen, we are being asked to give name of the application. I am giving WebCalc. I am giving WebCalc. You can use anything of your choice, but remember, this is name of the application, so name it something you want your application to be called. Next part is the package name. It is very important, as this is how your application will be identified when you upload it on the Play Store. In the next part, location is something where you want to store your code for the application. You may choose wherever you want to place your code to. For now, I am using desktop. You can use anything of your choice. And the last one is language. The language, like we discussed, we have 2 options. I'm going to use Java for now. Last one is minimum SDK. This is essential part, as this defines OS versions your application supports. I suggest you should use 5.1 or up. Now you can click on this finish button and we are done with creating our new project. In few moments you will be given project with a blank activity. This process takes some time if you are creating the project for the first time. Android Studio may download some important files for the project, and progress for the scene can be seen at the bottom right corner of the screen. Once the process gets finished, we can start exploring project and its important component. At the moment, we are going to focus on two part of the project, UI part and coding part. As you can see, Android Studio opened both files or part for us by default. It is always advisable to you work on UI first and then work on code part, as we are changing to the UI part of the application. In case Android Studio doesn't open both file or any file for UI part, you can go to app, then resources, then layout, and then you can open your file by double clicking on any file of your choice. For this instance, we have only one file, that is activity_main, and that is already opened, so we don't need to do anything. Now the fun part of designing UI is that we don't need to use any code. Of course you can use code if you like, and for creating complex layout or make some specific changes, you may need to use text section or say code part of the designer. For now, let's remember that we want to create a application. In the first screen, we need to edit text and 4 button. So let's just drag number edit text from palette. It will be in your UI section. Also, we don't need this hello world text view, so I'm deleting that as well. Next, we need to define our boundaries. This is for taking first number. To define boundaries, we just need to click on these dots and drag them to the boundaries of our desire. And then make some changes as well. This looks perfect to me. This was for the first edit text, and we need 2 of them, so I'm repeating the same process. I took edit text, then defining our boundaries, and we need this edit text to be at the bottom of the previous one, and that is done. Now we need to give ID for the both edit text. You can see that ID for the both edit text is already given in this attribute section, but I suggest you name it something of your choice so that whenever time comes to refer them, you can refer them easily. I'm using UI underscore num1 for the first text box, and for the second one I'm using UI underscore num2. Done. Now that edit text are done, we can move to the next part of our screen, that is buttons. To get buttons, we can go to button section of the palette, then drag button to our UI. We need 4 buttons, so I'm taking 4 buttons for now. We will define boundaries for all of them at later stage of the process. Okay, I have taken 4 buttons. Now for the boundary part, I am repeating the similar process that we did with the edit text, just dragging and joining boundaries to the UI of my choice. You can make changes if you like to this layout as well, but it's your choice. I think UI looks similar to our discussed UI in the slides. Next part is to change the text for this button. Remember what we want? We need text something like this, sign for the operation. So I'm changing the text from the attribute section, addition, then subtraction, then multiplication, then division, and that is done. As you can see, UI looks similar to what we discussed in the slides. The next part is interesting part because we are going to make buttons clickable. To do so, we have several options, but I am using simplest method. However, using this method is not advisable. So if you are developing real apps, then try to avoid it. But for learning, this one is easy to use as well as to understand. To do so, select on the button which you want to set action for. Remember, I said you have 2 options. You can either use the UI part or you can use code section. I am more comfortable with code section, so I am using that. For this instance, I want to set action for addition button, so I have selected that from the UI, and you can see that cursor or say pointer of our page is blinking at the selected buttons code. Here we need to make this button clickable or say touchable. So for that I'm using one attribute called on click. As soon as you type on click, you will be greeted with the tiny list You can select on click from the list, and then you can give name of our method. I'm giving name add. You can give anything of your choice, but as soon as we type name for our method, uh, it is asking us whether we want to create a method for this button in our Java file. So to do that, I am using this bulb button and select this create add view in activity main file. Just click on that and you will be added to the file as well. Now we have 4 buttons, so obviously we need to add 4 methods. So I am repeating the same process for all of them. This one is for multiplication. Don't forget to check the sign for the operation. Otherwise, you may end up getting mysterious results whenever you click any of the buttons. On click, then let's say sub, then select, then final one is division. On click, then div, and click on the bulb create method. Okay, so UI part for the first activity, or say first screen, is done. Now let's jump to the code section, or say main part of our application. I'm assuming you know some basics for the coding. First of all, we need to get reference of all edit text from the UI. But before that, we need to create 2 objects for edit text. Edit text, and I'm calling it et underscore num1 and et underscore num2. You can use anything of your choice, but to make this application simple, I am using this names. Next, our objects for the both edit text are created, but we need to initialize them as well, otherwise it's of no use. So to do initialization, we need to use a method called find view by id, and in the round brackets we are passing r.id.ui underscore num1 for the edit text number 1, and find view by id r.id.ui underscore number 2 for the number 2 of our edit text. Next part is to have integer numbers at our hand. As we know, mathematical operations can't be performed on the text, and to do so we need 2 integer variables. So I am creating 2 variables, num1, num2. You can name anything of your choice. Once again, they are not initialized, meaning they are created 2 variables, but they are empty. They don't have any values. To avoid any errors, we have to assign 0 to both variables. To do so, num1 is equals to 0, num2 2 is equals to 0. We have initialized both numbers to 0. Now we can start our operation. In our add method, I am changing the value of number 1 and number 2. Why? Because we need to get values which user inputted in edit text. For that, we are using a method called get text to get text from the edit text. So I'm doing something like number 1 is equals to get et underscore number 1 dot get text, and as you can see we are greeted with the first error. Why? Because edit text accepts data in text and we need integer. This is what this error says. To fix this, we have to convert text to number. To do so, we are using a method called parse int of integer class. To do so, integer dot parse int, and in brackets we are passing the value which comes from the edit text. We also need to cast it to text. In case something goes wrong, it's better to keep convert the text to the string, and we can copy the same line for the number 2, but don't forget to change the variable name and object name for the second edit text box. Now let's perform action on these two numbers. For that I am creating a variable named answer and assigning it to 0 so nothing goes wrong, and answer is equals to number 1 plus number 2, and we are done for now. Now remember, according to our plan we need 2 activities and it's a time we create second one. To do so we have many ways, but a simple one is to right click on the app folder, then select new, and then go to activity and select empty activity. You can select anything from the given template list, and these templates are the same as we have seen at the time of project creation. I am using empty activity. As soon as we click on the empty activity, we are being asked to give the name of second activity. I am calling it second. You can name it anything of your choice. Apart from this, you don't need to change anything at this point. Just click on the finish button and we will see similar files, Java and XML files will be opened for us. The same files we seen previously are created newly. Now we should work on UI section first. So in this second activity .xml file, we have nothing at our hand. So I'm going to the text palette, then selecting text view, dragging it to the our app's UI section. Also, we need to set constraint for this text box because we want answer to be in center of our screen. I am setting constraint like this. If you want to make changes to this section, you can make changes as you please. Now that is done, we need to change ID for our text box. I am using UI underscore answer. The next thing we need to change is that I don't like the size of this text box, so to make it a little bit bigger, we can go through this attribute list and find the text size. At the moment it's a 14 sp. I'm making it to 30. You can also use anything you like, and that one is done. That's done. Let's jump to the code section and pick up from where we left. As far as I can remember, we were in the main activity section, and now I'm creating another method, but before that we need to change activities. For that we have to use a feature called intent feature, or you can say a functionality, or anything of your choice, but intent are used to change activities in general. I'm not going to explain everything about intent, otherwise this session will be tedious and lengthy for everyone. Now I'm creating a method called change activity public void. You can name this activity anything, but for now I am calling it change activity. In this part, in this activity I also need a variable named answer. Why? Because we will pass, or say call this method with answer of the numbers. In this method I am using one statement like get application context dot start activity new intent this, then second dot class. This line will open new activity. Now that is done, all we need to do is send, or say pass answer to second activity. To do this, we need to add few parameters to this line. To do that, we need to use put extra then give it some name, let's say answer, then answer as a parameter, and that is done. Next part is we are launching or say creating a new activity in from our main activity to another activity. So we need a flag called, and to add a flag we are using add flags method. The flag we need is intent dot flag underscore, sorry, because it's a constant we need to type in capital flag, then activity, then new task, and we are done. Our application is half completed. Now that methods work is done, we can make a change in our add method. Here I'm just calling our newly created method with an answer parameter in it. Change activity into bracket answer, and we are done. At this point we should be able to open new activities. Let's check that part. To run or check our application, all we need to do is click on this green button and open our application. We can test functionality of the application. As you can see, UI is working great. Next part is let's give some number and click on the add button. As you can see, the application is working as expected, except giving answer in the second activity. To do so, we simply need to go to the part of the second activity and add some lines. Once again, it's something I'm not going to explain at the moment because it will take time. But if you like, let me know in the comment section of this video once it's uploaded to the YouTube, and I will make a video explaining intent and how this functionality works. Okay, in this part we need to take object for our text box because we want to set text or say make our answer visible in text field. So I am making object for text view, and that is done. Next part is initialization, and that can be done with find view by ID, then referring to our UI answer text box. That part is done. Now to show answer into text view, we are using one method known as set text, and that will write answer in our text view. So text view dot set text, then some text. I am using answer is, you can give anything of your choice. Now what we need is answer from our previous activity. To do that, I'm using one method, get intent dot get extra, then get integer, and in that I'm passing the name which we gave in the this change activity section, that is answer, and we are done. Let's check this functionality and then we will move to the next part. To check the functionality, just click on this restart button. I'm giving 12 12 and addition, and as you can see it's working as expected. Now it's a time to complete our other operations in the first activity. In this part we can simply use copy and paste, so I'm doing that only. Once that is done, I can simply change the signs. This is multiplication function, so I'm using asterisk. This is subtraction, so I'm using minus, and division because this sign, and we are done. We can check functionality for our application. 10 and 5. 10 plus 5, 15. Then 10 minus 5 is equals to 5. 5 tens are 50, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. As you can see, the app is working perfectly. This was the last part of today's webinar. I hope you enjoyed this section. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel, so if I upload new videos you can get them to watch quickly. At this time I am sharing a link in the live comment. You can use that to request certificate for this event. This form will be closed in 5 minutes, so submit the form as quickly as you can. I would also like to thank Cypress and Graphicans for supporting this event, and thank you once again to everyone who has joined and made this event successful. Have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and queries in the comment section of this video. Thank you. Goodbye.